Russell Brand faces multiple civil lawsuits over sexual misconduct allegations, and what has unfolded around him over the past 2 years has become one of the most shocking and closely watched celebrity scandals in recent memory. The man once celebrated for his sharp humor, his chaotic charisma, and his wild lifestyle has now found himself entangled in a series of accusations, criminal charges, and civil suits that have transformed his name from headline entertainment to headline controversy. This is a story that begins in the late 1990s and early 2000s, during the height of Brand's early fame, and it stretches all the way to the present day, where both British and American courts are preparing to examine his past through a very different lens. The criminal side of the saga began to crystallize in April 2025, when prosecutors in the United Kingdom officially charged Russell Brand with multiple counts, including rape, oral rape, indecent assault, and sexual assault. The charges relate to incidents alleged to have taken place between 1999 and 2005, a time when Brand's star was rising rapidly, first on the comedy circuit and later on television. For the Crown Prosecution Service to authorize such serious charges after months of investigation signaled just how seriously authorities were taking the case. The allegations cover 4 different women, each of whom described harrowing encounters that they say were non-consensual and deeply damaging. Brand, of course, has denied these charges, declaring that while he lived what he called a promiscuous life, everything he engaged in was consensual. He has even gone so far as to describe himself as a sex addict and a reckless imbecile, words that have been dissected by critics and supporters alike. By the end of May 2025, Brand appeared in Southwark Crown Court, where he formally entered not guilty pleas to all charges. The courtroom scene was electric, with media from around the world gathered to witness the moment. The judge scheduled his trial for June 3, 2026, more than a year away, meaning the public will now watch a long pre-trial process unfold. This gives time for lawyers to exchange evidence, for new witnesses to potentially step forward, and for the media to continue fueling speculation about what really happened in those years of Brand's life. But the criminal proceedings are only one half of this storm. Alongside them are a series of civil lawsuits, which add an entirely new layer to Brand's legal troubles. The first major civil case came in the United States in late 2023, when a woman identified only as Jane Doe filed a lawsuit under New York's Adult Survivors Act. She claimed that while working as an extra on the set of the 2011 film Arthur, Brand exposed himself and later assaulted her. The timing of the lawsuit was critical, because the Adult Survivors Act had opened a temporary window for victims of past abuse to file claims that would otherwise be barred by the statute of limitations. This meant Brand's alleged actions, even though they dated back more than a decade, could still be challenged in a court of law. That case has been moving forward in New York, and it has placed Brand under pressure not just in his home country, but in the United States as well. Then in early 2025, news broke of another civil lawsuit, this time filed in London's High Court. The claim, brought by an anonymous woman, was filed as a personal injury case related to alleged sexual abuse. This was the first known civil suit against Brand in the United Kingdom, and signaled that the legal fallout was not confined to the United States. Civil suits can often result in financial damages, settlements, or public findings that may not carry the same weight as a criminal conviction, but can still devastate a celebrity's reputation and career. The background to all of this traces back to September 2023, when a joint investigation by major UK newspapers and Channel 4's documentary series Dispatches aired explosive allegations against Brand. Several women came forward with stories spanning from 2016 to 2013, accusing him of sexual assault, emotional abuse, and manipulative behavior. These allegations painted a disturbing portrait of a man who, while publicly celebrated as a comedic genius and Hollywood star, allegedly engaged in deeply harmful private conduct. The broadcast sparked widespread outrage, charities and production companies cut ties with Brand, and public opinion began to shift sharply. Since then, reactions to the Brand scandal have been split. Many former fans and women's rights advocates have called for accountability, arguing that the allegations fit a long-standing pattern of behavior that had been ignored because of Brand's fame. They highlight the way he often joked openly about his sexual escapades in his stand-up routines and interviews, suggesting that the clues were in plain sight for years. On the other side, Brand's defenders insist that he is being unfairly targeted in a post-Me Too culture that they say too often tries celebrities in the court of public opinion before legal evidence is fully weighed. They argue that until a jury delivers a verdict, Brand deserves the presumption of innocence. What makes this case especially complicated is the overlap between the criminal and civil processes. Criminal trials require proof beyond a reasonable doubt, a very high standard, while civil cases operate on the balance of probabilities, a lower threshold. This means Brand could, theoretically, be found not guilty in a criminal trial, but still lose one or more civil cases. The dual paths increase the pressure on him, not only financially but also reputationally, as civil suits can involve public testimony and discovery of documents that keep the scandal in headlines. Meanwhile, the fallout from the allegations has been immediate and severe for Brand's career. Endorsements, book deals, and media appearances have evaporated. Charities that once had him as a supporter or ambassador cut ties swiftly. Major platforms restricted or demonetized his content. For a man who once commanded audiences across television, film, podcasts, and stand-up tours, the sudden collapse of commercial opportunities has been stark. What remains is an uncertain future, with his brand of provocative spiritual commentary now overshadowed by the weight of ongoing lawsuits. Looking back, Brand's rise to fame was meteoric. He was a radio presenter, a stand-up comic, a film star in movies like Forgetting Sarah Marshall and Get Him to the Greek, and even briefly the husband of pop superstar Katy Perry. His appeal was built on his irreverence, his openness about addiction and recovery, and his sharp critiques of politics and culture. Yet the very persona that made him a star, unapologetically brash, unfiltered, and hypersexual, is now being used against him as evidence of a troubling pattern. As the trial date approaches, one thing is clear. The Russell Brand case is not going away anytime soon. The criminal trial in June 2026 will be the centerpiece, but the civil lawsuits in both the UK and the US will continue to add new developments along the way. Each court filing, each pretrial hearing, and each leaked document will spark another wave of headlines, commentary, and public debate. This scandal is a reminder of how quickly fortunes can change in the world of celebrity. Russell Brand went from a celebrated entertainer to a polarizing figure, fighting for his freedom and his reputation. The stakes could not be higher. Years in prison if convicted, millions in damages if civil suits succeed, and perhaps the permanent loss of his once glittering career in entertainment. The world will be watching as this saga unfolds. Will Russell Brand be vindicated in court, or will he face the full weight of legal and financial accountability? Only time will tell, but the journey from now until June 2026 promises to be filled with twists, revelations, and drama. Make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more celebrity updates just like this.